The year is 2021, and the number of COVID-19 cases has skyrocketed exponentially because people just don't like to listen to public health directives. But you know what else has skyrocketed in growth? AI chatbots. You know, the ones that sort of ask you if you need any help when you're buying your favorite stuffed corgis, or if you actually wanted some help looking at your financial situation when your bank account is nearing the balance of zero. Yeah, those ones. The reason that these chatbots have skyrocketed in growth is because companies know that they work. According to Forbes, 60% of millennials have used chatbots, and over 70% of them had a positive experience. On top of that, Accenture reported that over 57% of their surveyed executives found that chatbots made a substantial increase in their return on investment with minimal effort. In their eyes, chatbots are a huge opportunity that they can milk in terms of a cash cow. In recent years, chatbots have impacted several industries for the better within the realm of retail, banking, finance, healthcare, among many, many others. And the growth is expected to continue. Which got me thinking, now is the perfect time to jump on the bandwagon and hop into the industry and see if there's any meaningful problems that I can solve and sort of build a project upon. Then a light bulb went off in my head. Why not leverage this new advancement in technology and build a mental health chatbot for awareness, education, and also potentially even turn it into a virtual therapy bot? But you might be thinking, yo, Kevin, why did you choose mental health? There's so many problems in the world. To which I answer, why not mental health? To start off, mental health disorders affect an estimated 792 million people around the world. That's slightly over 1 in 10 people globally, and those are just figures from 2017. In Canada, where I'm from, the problem is even worse, with over 1 in 5 Canadians experiencing some form of mental health disorder or illness every single year, with 1 in 2 Canadians having experienced some form or period of mental health illness over the course of their life by the time they reach 40. On top of that, take in that over 70% of mental health problems and issues arise particularly during childhood and adolescence and manifest beyond that if people don't actually reach proper treatment or support. The reason that this is all a big problem is that mental health disorders and illnesses can actually reduce life expectancy by 10 to 20 years. This is insane. Furthermore, the negative economic impacts within the realm of poor mental health actually sums up to be over $51 billion a year simply in Canada alone, attributed to healthcare costs, lost productivity, and reduction in the life expectancy and quality of life. At the end of the day, the root causes of mental health are limitless. Sometimes the cause can actually be biological, which means that it could be hereditary, it could actually be caused by infections, it could also be caused by brain defects or injuries, or even substance abuse. In other cases, the cause of mental health issues could actually be linked back to psychological factors. On top of that, there could also be other environmental factors that affect mental health. Exact factors contributing to mental health concerns and issues for each individual is highly dependent on a case-by-case basis, and sometimes it could even involve factors from all 3 categories. Upon further research and exploration, I came across something else, a problem and a roadblock. I found that people don't actually get the help that they need. In a report by the WHO, the World Health Organization, between 30 to 80% of the people that are actually struggling with mental health issues and concerns don't actually get the help that they need. First of all, the range behind that is absolutely unbelievable. But beyond that, that means between 238 million and 634 million people are struggling out there. That's a huge problem. This brings me to the next question. Why don't people actually get the help that they need? After a quick root cause analysis, the main sort of core factors and causes behind why people don't actually get the help that they need could be attributed to the following. 1. There's a lack of access to the services that they need, either because of lack of funding, a lack of accessibility, along with inadequate care. This is a huge problem because some healthcare insurance plans don't actually cover mental health care. Some countries, as part of their universal healthcare, don't actually even cover mental health care either. and it just depends on a case-by-case basis.
You need to treat mental illness the same way.
Number 2, there's a stigma around mental health. And beyond that stigma, that could come from their peers, their friends, and even just common misconceptions and stereotypes imposed by the media and other movies and TV shows. Number 3, there's actually a lack of systems to support those that need help and assistance. Because think about it this way. Say that you're someone that's actually struggling with a mental health issue and illness, or even some sort of concern. The amount of hoops that you have to jump through and the friction between actually having the thought that, hey, I need help, and actually receiving that help is huge. Number 4, there are also some other personal emotions and sentiments surrounding the issue. This can include fear, shame, distrust, and sort of misinformation that has really powered and fueled a lot of that. Beyond that, it's actually really important to internalize within yourself that it's okay to feel what you feel, and let others that might be struggling with mental health concerns around you know that. For this project, I actually wanted to tackle upon all of these issues, but for the purposes of this sort of MVP of sorts, or sort of mini project that I just sort of built in a weekend, I actually wanted to see how far I could take it. And I'll definitely be expanding more so on this and continue to build this along and even get this directly implemented in the real world, hopefully. But in the meantime, I've only touched upon 2 to 4 of these sort of buckets. Here's what I did, and here's how I got started. Since I had just gotten started with chatbots, I actually needed to just sort of understand how exactly to go about building one. To get the basic foundations, I consulted a few core resources. First, an article called Contextual Chatbots with TensorFlow, a video series by a YouTuber called Python Engineer, and DataCamp's course track with Natural Language Processing NLP with Python. These were absolutely golden and extremely helpful along the way, and without those, I probably would not have been able to build it and sort of gain the knowledge that I developed through the project. After I got a decent understanding of the theoretical components, I actually wanted to break this down into a few core chunks and steps as part of the project. Therefore, step 1 would definitely be transforming conversational intents and definitions to PyTorch model. Step 2 would be building a chatbot framework for response processing. And then step 3 would definitely be building a graphical user interface based on that and sort of deliver that end message to users. With a theoretical understanding in place, I got straight away with opening VS Code and just started to build. First, I created a few core files that I needed to sort of make this project happen. This included app.py for the graphical user interface. This included chat.py for the chatbot framework. This also included the intents.json file for helping the computer sort of understand intents. This also included the models.py file, a few lines of code that really focuses on integrating the deep learning model. The NLTK utils.py file actually really focused on the natural language processing sort of components with NLTK and other libraries. And then lastly, train.py for the actual training itself. By the way, the full repository of all the code can actually be found on my GitHub repository right here, linked in the description down below. Let me now actually walk you through the step-by-step process of actually how I built this and show you the code itself. Let's jump straight into step 1 with transforming conversational intents and definitions to PyTorch model. A chatbot framework requires structure where conversational intents are actually defined. You can sort of think of this as like a corpus of knowledge, or a library of sorts, where you have all the information in one central place. A simple way to go about this would be to create a JSON file, as you can see here. Every intent contains a tag with a label that you choose. Patterns, sort of sentence patterns for the text classifier in the neural network. And lastly, responses, the answer that the machine gives once the model has understood a user input. Now that we've handled all the conversational intents through the JSON file, we can move towards the next step, where we handle the initial NLP pre-processing. Throughout the process, I've created a list of sentences, which could be then broken down further into a list of stemmed words, with each sentence associated with an intent and class. After the natural language processing is handled, I followed the tutorial and proceeded with building out the deep learning model with PyTorch. For more information on PyTorch, on the deep learning models, I can actually create a future video very soon. But in the meantime, you can actually check out this article series that's been created and composed by an amazing author right here. Check it out right here. After the model was built, I actually continued the tutorial and proceeded with building out the training code as shown below. The purposes of the code is actually to load the JSON file, apply the natural language processing code, then create the training data and actually begin training the model. Now that the hard part's done, let's actually move towards the next section where I break down the chatbot response framework. Step 2. building the chatbot response framework for response processing. The next step is to build out the framework for the chatbot with the code displayed right down below. Based on the tutorial and resources that I consulted, I then sort of structured the code and wrote my model the way I did to sort of solve for the classification problem of gathering the intent for the user intent and through classification of the tag that the sentiment falls under, and then thus picking a response from. Feel free to take a quick pause and sort of look deep into what the code really entails. Step 3 would be creating a graphical interface. Lastly, as a bonus, the final piece of the puzzle involved sort of creating a graphical user interface with Python and tkinter, sort of to experiment and develop my own skills, but also to follow along the amazing tutorial that the Python engineer sort of put together. This actually was serving the purpose of connecting the code with a place that the user could directly click to open and sort of input their own messages. As you can see here, I sort of inputted the basic libraries, then imported the color along with the different classes and sort of set it up to really contain the different elements as part of the chatbot itself, and then proceeded with allowing the user to run the program itself. Now that the code demo is complete, let's actually take a deeper dive into the specifics behind how exactly this sort of looks as a final product. While this was one of my first natural language processing projects, this was definitely a blast. I was able to play with my new friend Ara a few times, and this was absolutely amazing. And it's incredible to see what a few hours of amazing and intense focused work can actually yield you in terms of results. I really want to build upon this even further and actually potentially even turn this into a startup later down the line in the next few weeks and months. So definitely keep your eyes out for that. In any case, thank you so much for sticking to the very end. If you stuck to this point of the video, I just want to give a huge thank you. You are amazing. I love you all. And yeah, peace out.